Spain. A BRICS nation? Trump stirs the pot. Donald Trump recently suggested that Spain might as well be a member of BRICS. This bloc of emerging economies, Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, represents a challenge to the established Western order. Trump's comment underscores a growing unease in Washington about Spain's foreign policy trajectory. Is Spain, a long-standing member of NATO and the European Union, truly drifting away from the West? The relationship between the United States and Spain has long been a complex dance. From the Spanish-American War to the post-Cold War era, cooperation and friction have marked the partnership. However, recent years have witnessed a palpable cooling of relations. Spain's response to Trump's BRICS jab has been a mixture of defiance and amusement. The question remains, is Spain's drift from the West a temporary blip, or is it a harbinger of a more profound geopolitical realignment? One of the most significant points of contention between the US and Spain revolves around China's growing influence. While the US views China's rise with suspicion, Spain has adopted a more welcoming stance. Chinese investments in Spain have surged in recent years, spanning sectors from infrastructure to technology. Madrid sees this influx of capital as a boon to its economy, helping to fuel growth and create jobs. However, Washington has expressed concerns that Spain's embrace of China could come at a cost. The US has long urged its allies to be wary of Beijing's ambitions, particularly in critical areas like 5G technology and artificial intelligence. Spain maintains that it can pursue economic ties with China, while also upholding its commitments to its Western allies. Madrid argues that it has robust mechanisms in place to safeguard national security and protect against undue influence. This difference in perspective is likely to persist, creating friction within the transatlantic relationship for years to come. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine has served as a litmus test for transatlantic unity, exposing cracks in the Western alliance. While the US has taken a leading role in providing military and financial aid to Ukraine, Spain's response has been more muted. Madrid has offered humanitarian assistance and diplomatic support, but its military contributions have been limited. This reluctance to engage more forcefully in the conflict has drawn criticism from Washington and some Eastern European allies. Spain's position on Ukraine is shaped by a number of factors. Domestically, public opinion is divided on the issue, with some expressing sympathy for Ukraine, but others wary of getting entangled in a distant conflict. Economically, Spain is still recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic and is hesitant to commit significant resources to a foreign war. This more cautious approach has led to accusations that Spain is shirking its responsibilities as a NATO member. The Ukraine conflict has highlighted the challenges of maintaining transatlantic unity in an increasingly complex and multipolar world. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has long been a source of tension in US-Spain relations. While the US has traditionally been a staunch supporter of Israel, Spain has adopted a more critical stance, often expressing sympathy for the Palestinian cause. This divergence in views has played out in international forums, with Spain frequently voting in favor of resolutions condemning Israeli policies. In 2014, Spain even formally recognized the State of Palestine, a move that drew a sharp rebuke from Washington. Spain's position on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is influenced by a number of factors. Historically, Spain has a long and complex relationship with the Arab world, dating back to the Moorish presence in Spain for centuries. The US views Spain's stance as unhelpful and counterproductive to the peace process. Washington argues that Spain's criticisms of Israel only serve to harden positions and make a negotiated solution more difficult to achieve. While these differences are unlikely to be resolved anytime soon, it is important for both sides to manage them constructively and avoid letting them derail the broader relationship. Section 5. Venezuela, a thorn in the side of US-Spain relations. The political and economic crisis in Venezuela has further strained relations between the US and Spain. While the US has taken a hard line against the Maduro regime, imposing sanctions and recognizing opposition leader Juan Guaido as the legitimate president, Spain has adopted a more nuanced approach. Madrid has condemned human rights violations in Venezuela and called for free and fair elections, but it has stopped short of recognizing Guaido. This more cautious approach has drawn criticism from Washington, which views it as tacit support for an authoritarian regime. Spain's position on Venezuela is shaped by a number of factors. Historically, Spain has close ties to Venezuela, a former colony, and many Spaniards have family and business connections there. The US views the Maduro regime as illegitimate and a threat to regional stability. Washington argues that Maduro's policies have led to a humanitarian catastrophe, with millions of Venezuelans fleeing the country in search of food and medicine. Bridging these differences will require a more coordinated and coherent strategy, one that balances the need for pressure with the importance of dialogue and engagement. Section 6. Spain's military might more show than substance. As Spain navigates these choppy diplomatic waters, its actual military capabilities have come under scrutiny. While a member of NATO, Spain's defense spending has consistently lagged behind the alliance's target of 2% of GDP. This has led to concerns about the readiness and modernization of its armed forces. Critics point to outdated equipment, personnel shortages, and a bloated bureaucracy as evidence that Spain is not pulling its weight within the alliance. Spain's military capabilities are further hampered by its geographic location. Situated on the Iberian Peninsula, Spain is somewhat removed from the front lines of NATO's eastern flank, where tensions with Russia are highest. This geographic reality, coupled with its limited defense spending, raises questions about Spain's ability to contribute meaningfully to NATO's collective defense in the event of a major conflict. Modernizing and adapting Spain's military to meet these challenges will require significant investment and a fundamental rethink of its strategic posture. Whether Spain and its European allies can summon the political will and financial resources to rebuild their militaries remains to be seen. Section 7. The ambiguity game. Spain's balancing act. Underlying Spain's seemingly contradictory foreign policy choices is a strategy of calculated ambiguity. Rather than firmly aligning itself with one bloc or another, Spain has sought to maintain good relations with both the West and rising powers like China. This approach allows Spain to maximize its economic and political leverage, playing different actors off against each other to secure its interests. On the one hand, Spain benefits greatly from its membership in the European Union and NATO. These institutions provide access to markets, funding, and security guarantees. However, Spain is also wary of being seen as a junior partner to the US or becoming overly reliant on Washington for its security. On the other hand, Spain recognizes the growing economic and geopolitical clout of China and other emerging powers. Spain's balancing act is a delicate one, and it remains to be seen how long it can sustain this approach. Section 8. The price of disagreement, economic and political fallout. Spain's increasingly independent foreign policy course has not come without costs. Its perceived drift from the Western camp has raised concerns among its traditional allies, potentially leading to economic and political repercussions. The US in particular has a history of using its economic and military clout to punish countries that challenge its interests. On the economic front, Spain could face reduced trade and investment from the US and its allies. The US could also use its influence within international organizations like the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund to limit Spain's access to funding. Politically, Spain could find itself increasingly isolated on the world stage. Alienating its traditional allies could have serious economic and political ramifications, undermining its security and prosperity in the long run. Section 9. Spain's crossroads, navigating the shifting sands of geopolitics. Spain stands at a crossroads in its foreign policy. The comfortable certainties of the post-Cold War era have evaporated, replaced by a more fluid and contested geopolitical landscape. The rise of China, the resurgence of Russia, and the fraying of the liberal international order have created a complex and unpredictable environment, forcing countries like Spain to re-evaluate their alliances and recalibrate their strategies. The path Spain chooses will have profound implications for its own future and for the future of the Transatlantic alliance. Continuing to drift away from the West and aligning more closely with China and other authoritarian regimes would represent a fundamental shift in Spain's foreign policy orientation. Alternatively, Spain could choose to reaffirm its commitment to the West, strengthening its ties with the US and its European allies. The decisions Spain makes in the coming years will shape its destiny for decades to come. The stakes are high and the world is watching.
So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.